something that's happening this weekend is a very rare planet alignment where you'll be able to see 6 planets from within our solar system, and they will be visible near the horizon of the night sky as the sun is setting. And soon after that sunset on this Saturday, February 28th, it's what's known as a planet parade, where the best time to view all of these planets will be 30 minutes to an hour after the sunset towards the western sky. Now, 4 of these planets, including Saturn, Neptune, Venus, and Mercury, will be very low on the horizon, kind of close to the sun, and they'll only be visible for that brief period. But for other planets, including Uranus and Neptune, which are kind of farther away, you'll need a small telescope or a pair of binoculars to be able to see them. And see is a very strong word because you still need to kind of focus and have essentially perfect conditions to be able to see something like this. You will definitely need a completely unobstructed view of the western horizon as well as clear skies to be able to get a good look at these planets. And this is something that will not repeat until 2040. And according to space.com, Venus and Mercury will be closest to the horizon during the twilight, where the sun is just over the horizon and about to set. And then that is followed by Saturn and Neptune, and then Uranus and Jupiter will be much higher in the sky. And seeing more than 3 of these planets, like I said, will likely be a challenge. But if you do end up missing it or not being able to see any of it during the time period, there are plenty of other planet watching opportunities for the rest of 2026. For example, in the first few days of March, specifically March 2nd and 3rd, there will be a total lunar eclipse, also known as a blood moon, that will be visible from certain western regions of North America, as well as Oceania and Asia. And then March 20th will be the March equinox, or the spring equinox, where if you don't know what an equinox is, it comes from the Latin root words that mean equal and night, or nocturnal, to where both day and night are equal throughout the day. It essentially means 12 days of sunlight, 12 hours of sunlight, 12 hours of night. And this actually happens twice a year. Another one will be present in September, but this happens when the sun essentially crosses above the equator, moving from the south to the north. And this causes the fastest sunsets and sunrises of the year because it's equally distributed throughout each hemisphere. And in the northern hemisphere, they will experience earlier sunrises, later sunsets, and then also plants begin to sprout. Whereas in the southern hemisphere is the complete opposite, right? You have later sunsets and earlier sunrises, or earlier sunsets. And you also have chillier winds and dry and falling leaves as if it's still wintertime. And for equinox enjoyers out there and people who are still a little bit confused on what exactly it is, I actually drew a diagram to try to explain it a little bit here. So if this is the normal Earth right here, it essentially in December, if this is on its axis right here, in December, this is how much sunlight it gets in this area, and then this back half is darkness. But in March, it essentially split down the middle, where this half gets all the sunlight and this half gets darkness. And that's why it is essentially half and half, 12 hours day, 12 hours night. But with the way that the Earth's axis is on, if you can see in this diagram right here, for the equinox, it is essentially the back half that is facing away from the sun is getting all the darkness. That's why when you have daylight saving time and everything like that, the other half, it essentially starts to tilt a little bit more as we go in to the summer solstice in June, which is another time where it is half and half like that. But for March 8th specifically, with daylight saving time, that's when we lose an hour of sleep. So at 1:59 a.m., instead of going to 2 a.m., it will jump ahead to 3 a.m. And that's when we get longer days ahead of the summer season. But in late March, Venus will actually be a super bright evening star, and it actually be the third brightest object after the sun and moon in the night sky, which is really, really cool. Can't wait to see that. But from Mars, if we're looking at Mars, it is essentially passing in the process of passing from the evening to the morning sky, and it'll start to be visible before the sunrise in April. And then in June, you have Venus and Jupiter being in close conjunction during the evening sky, with Mercury just below that. That's specifically on June 9th. And then in August, Venus will be the highest it's been in the sky, and it will also shine the brightest in September. So I'm very, very excited and looking forward to all of those events. And I'll have all that information and more on our website at ktalnews.com. But if you look at the diagram again, for those of you who might be a little bit confused when it comes to the winter and summer solstice, it essentially, if you look at the winter solstice right here, this half facing the sun, that's when you have the shortest days, and because of the way the Earth's axis is tilted, if you were to straighten it out a little bit, you would actually only get this little bit of fraction of sunlight, and that's why it is usually shorter days and it gets dark at like 4 p.m. It's because the way the Earth is tilted, it doesn't get as much sunlight as it would for the summer solstice, where it's the longest day of the year in terms of daylight. But I just wanted to draw that little diagram and show y'all as best as I can to try to help y'all understand it a little bit more.